Today on Homeworthy, we're taking you to Pennsylvania. With its rich architectural heritage and historic landmarks, Pennsylvania is a treasure trove of design inspiration. Join us as we go inside a historic farmhouse nestled in rolling hills and a Maximalist Philadelphia apartment. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Ruth. Welcome to Hillside Farm. Come on in. Hi, I'm Ruth McKinney. Welcome to Hillside Farm. We're in Berwyn, a small little township outside of Philadelphia, and I'm so excited to have you here today. The story of our house, it's crazy. It's a 305-year-old farmhouse. William Penn deeded it 305 years ago to the first owners, and we're the fourth people on the deed in 305 years. So we feel very blessed. It was definitely a labor of love, and the story began a little bit earlier than that. Welcome. Here's the entryway to our home, and you can feel the slope on the floor. I think it might be a foot difference, but I'm not sure. Right here, my husband, on our 10th anniversary, we've got 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy, and he had this made as a representation of our children. It was a very special gift to me. Actually, he went to the gentleman who makes them out in Park City, and he told him what he wanted, and the gentleman said, well, if I make it with your children, you won't be able to send them to college. So he said, I have some standard kids, and let's just throw in the 4 girls and a boy. So that's how this came about. One of the fun features of our house is nobody's breaking in. This is our lock to the front door. One of the features of this home in particular is all of the rounded, everything's rounded, which I love. And you'll notice that on all the doorways. As far as our artwork, and you're going to notice as you walk through our house, Bob and I love artwork, but we love it from people that we know and love. So each piece of art holds a story. This one, for instance, a friend of mine had done it. That same friend painted all of my children. So we've got the kids going up the wall. So as you walk through the house, you're going to see and be introduced to different people who have had they have a moment in our house. So back at the beginning of my career in my 20s, I was an assistant Commonwealth attorney in the state of Virginia and then an assistant attorney general. At that point, right around 30, I got married to Bob. And we were living in Richmond, and his father gave him a call and said, come on up to Philly. I want you to work for me in the family company. So we moved up to Philadelphia. At that time, we didn't have any kids. We lived in 9 places in the first year, just kind of moving from place to place. We hadn't sold our house in Virginia, and we didn't have any money. And I found myself pregnant and waiting to wave into the bar in Pennsylvania. And my husband said, let's go look at some property over off the main line. So we meet with this, it's a funny story. We meet with this realtor in Wayne, and she asked us how much money we had to spend. And we told her, and she burst out laughing, and she said, you can't afford to live here. 2 weeks later, she gave us a call, and she said, are you afraid of hard work? So my husband said no, and here I am. I've just had my first baby, and she takes us to a property over by the Montgomery Scott Estate, which is off the main line, and she takes us to a house that's literally sliding off the foundation. And she said, this is what you can afford. So my husband, we walk in, I burst into tears, and he said, let's go to Home Depot. And we just started to learn and did the work ourselves, hung the wallpaper, painted, I designed. He did the work at nights and weekends. And in 18 months, we sold that, doubled our money, bought another one. In 18 months, sold that, and we just started to roll it for years. We did it for about 16 years. And in those 16 years, we had 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy, and each one was born in a different house. Now I'm going to take you into our dining room, which is, a lot of people don't use their dining rooms anymore, but we do. I Again, I just love our family to be together or to host. So this is our dining room, and this fireplace, actually this, when I mentioned earlier, there was a chandelier hanging here that had all candles. So we had to add electricity to this room. This fireplace, which is really fun, we put gas in so that we could actually use it. One of the things I asked my husband to build me, and he did it 2 Mother's Days ago, is a cutting garden. So outside, and I can show you later, is a cutting garden that he built for me. And yesterday I went and picked all of these flowers to have as a centerpiece. I love setting a table. And I think, you know, my sister said it once. She said, Ruth, you create beauty when people come so they feel like you thought about them and they're welcome. So it just changes the atmosphere when you put thought into everything that you do. So many people have asked me how I would describe my style. It's a little eclectic. I love the Ralph Lauren, I love the plaids, the colors, the wallpapers. Bunny Williams has such a great sense of style as well. So I find people that I'd like to follow. I also love a piece of surprise in each room. I don't want it just to be all antiques. You know, Bob and I, as I said earlier, didn't have a lot to begin with. So we used to literally take the kids in our strollers and visit garage sales and estate sales, and then just began to collect. You know, another piece of art, I mentioned art earlier, was I asked Bob after we redid our first house, I said, what was your favorite date? And he said, well, it was when we were in the Stratford-upon-Avon. We were backpacking in England, and we got a baguette, some cheese, and a bottle of wine, and took a boat ride. So I had a friend paint that. So every painting, every picture holds a story for us. I'll have to tell you, this home is incredibly special. When we first moved here, actually a friend called me and said, can you watch my kids? We're gonna go look at a piece of property, possibly to do some investment. So I watched her kids, and she called me later and said, it's not for my husband and I think it's for your husband and you. And at the time, my mom had died, and I wanted a place that had a guest home that my father could live in. Well, my husband and I visited this place, and when I tell you it was in disrepair, there were trees growing into the 3rd floor. The woods had encroached on the entire property. So actually when we went to closing, they said, wow, there's 12 structures on your property. And we hadn't seen any of them except the 2 guest houses. So we literally, well, before I get to how we had to fix it up, when I didn't want the house when we moved in, when we checked out the main house. And I think it was, size doesn't matter to me, story and character matter to me. So we went into one of the 2 small guest houses, and it had a big stone hearth, and you looked out over the property, and that's when I said, let's make an offer. And they took our offer. We offered half of what they were asking. And they took our offer. We moved in 3 weeks later. We lived literally in tents for a while because there was, if you flushed a toilet, water would pour down all the walls. We had to take out every pipe in the house. We had to redo all lighting, obviously. In the dining room, the chandelier had candles, so it hadn't been redone in years. Now, a famous architect had bought it in 1900, and that's Brognard Oakey. And he had put his touch on it, which I think is what's made it, you know, people have wanted it in books, which is why they've come and done interviews for their books. But it had not actually been redone. So every floor slopes, every wall carries a story. That's why I love this show. It's about story. Long story short, all the woods came to the house. And I got my brother, who was in college at the time, and said, Josh, can I hire you and a buddy to come here for a summer? And we got a chipper and we got saws, and they just worked. I mean, our basement was a dirt floor. So it has been a labor of love. I'm so excited to get the chance to brag about my husband, because even though he's an engineer by trade, he really is so much more than that. And since we began to flip houses, he just does the next thing. He learns it. He learns how to do carpentry work. He learns how to do, you know, plumbing, electricity. And not only that, he's not afraid to learn it. He's not afraid to make mistakes, which is what we've done so many times, is make mistakes. I mean, there was a time in one of our houses, it had a popcorn ceiling, and there had been a leak in it, and we couldn't afford to replace the popcorn ceiling. So my husband went outside. He came back in and he said, I think I know what I'm going to do. He had all this sawdust shavings that he mixed with kind of like a grout, stuck it up on the ceiling and just painted it. So he's just not afraid, and I love that, because he's not only done these homes for financial reasons, but he's done it really to bless his family. And so I can't say enough about Bob. Oh, and another great story, and when you're in the kitchen, you'll see this. The island in the center of the kitchen. I had decided to surprise my husband and design the kitchen and not tell him what it was going to look like. And I had drawn out the island. The Amish had built it for me, and they bring the island to the house. And the gentleman, the head contractor says, "Mrs. McKinney, come here. Your island does not fit into your house. We cannot get it in any doorway. Can't get it in at all." I had not measured my doorways to get this island in. So I had to humbly call my husband and say, "You know the island that I refused to let you have any input on? We can't get it into the house." So he came racing home. He ended up in the kitchen taking out the window and all of the trim, and then proceeded to tell me it will never leave our house. Now we're in the kitchen, and this is where I live. When we first bought the home, there was a wall right here. Actually, the kitchen was right in here. And on this side were large butter vats where they would churn the butter when this was a dairy farm. Actually, the first night we bought the house, my husband and I came over and he took this wall down. So that was the very first thing that he did. I found these old, because it was a dairy farm, I found these used to hold hay to feed cows, and I made them into light fixtures. This island is the island that I was talking about that we couldn't get into the house. You can see it's a little too wide. So I designed this island so I could have people sitting on one side. I'm a huge baker, so I honed marble, and we did that on this side. We used soapstone, which I have found has become, I think the combination of soapstone and marble are my favorite. So my desire in a kitchen was to have a combination of commercial, which is why the stainless, as well as the homey feel. I like the combination of that. I think number one, smells are really important in a kitchen. I mean, all of our kitchens look very different, but having something cooking or candles going is very important. Always having live things. I always have herbs growing, or herbs in a pot on my kitchen counter. I have fresh fruit. I have lemons because I drink lemon water every night. So having something alive is also important, whether that's herbs or flowers. Here we have a wall right over here where all 5 kids, we've measured them since they were very little. And, we could have gotten rid of it, but we've kept it. Here is our fireplace that we put in. There was a washer and dryer right here when we moved in. And we busted through and we put in some gas logs. As I said before, fireplaces in a kitchen to me make the kitchen. So we have literally, in one of the houses we did, we even put one that went up to the ceiling in brick. We just love to integrate fireplaces in a kitchen. I collect cutting boards. Different people collect dishes, but I collect cutting boards. In fact, this one, you can't see it, it has the cookies on it, but my husband made about 60 of these for a family reunion. And he burned Hillside Farm and our family motto, which is blessed. So here's a cutting board, but I collect cutting boards. I think it's fun anything wood adds warmth. These are Ruth's Barely Baked cookies, and they're in my cookbook. And the secret is there's 4 sticks of butter. But besides that, you can't use a mixer, you have to hand do it. And they're called Barely Baked for a reason. You take them out of the oven while they're barely baked. But this recipe is in the book. These photos, a friend of mine, every house that we flipped, she drew for us. So we could fit 3 on this wall. We have several other places in the house. I also think part of creating a home is to mix other generations in your generation. When my mom passed away, she gave away her Mackenzie child. So even though I don't necessarily use Mackenzie myself, I've collected them and kept them here. In my baking station, I keep all my flour, sugars, everything out on the counter all the time in fun big jars, and it just makes it feel more cozy. When we were redoing this portion of the kitchen, I wanted to create a new space for a pantry, so I asked my husband to put this door on one of these and brick the floor. And then we created a new pantry. We're gonna head to the den, but there's a couple of little things I wanna show you beforehand. When we walked in here, my husband asked me when we first moved in, is there a place in the house you don't like? Well, for me, it was this dark, small hallway. Well, I went to the grocery store, I came home, and my husband had put a hole in the ceiling and was hanging a light. But in these nooks, here's another piece of art my daughter did. So just any nook and cranny that you can put a piece of your family makes it home. And then there's another thing. Here is it's a bathroom. It's become one of my favorite rooms in the house, and you'll see why. I love the pop of color and the wallpaper. It's a European wallpaper that I found. This bathroom just makes me happy. Here is our den. Years ago, I visited a friend in Charlotte, and when I walked into her mother's den, they had floor-to-ceiling black and whites of the family over decades, and it covered every wall, and I thought, I want to do that someday. So when you walk into our den, that's what we've started, is a collection of our family story. And we just continuously add it over time and replace it. And that's why this is one of my favorite rooms. This is where we read at night as a family. This is where we do puzzles. This is where we play games. And it just represents our family to me. All right, so when you walk into our living room, which is probably the more formal room, it's where I do a lot of reading and visiting with people. I love texture. I love surprise elements, and I think that this room brings that all together. This was given to us by someone. These chairs Bob and I found up in Maine and had them shipped back. I had this chair made. This was being given away at a garage sale, and I recovered it. And I recovered this as well. I mean, every single piece, I can tell you where, and there's a story. My mom wrote music and wrote she had 6 children and wrote each one of us a song. And before she died, she gave us each the music to our songs, and I had one of the pages of mine framed. Okay, like I said, we do artwork with a story, and so a friend had this painted. In front of our house, you'll see we have a grove of 8 apple trees, 8 Honeycrisp trees that were given to us from my cousin as a thank you. And she had that painted for us. This is the same artist that's in the kitchen. So those 2 photos or paintings are the only 2 in our house that we don't have a connection. Actually, this one above the fireplace, when we were cleaning up our dirt basement, which was, some of it was underwater, and this was under a large beam, and it was rolled up and crinkled. I took it. It says, Paris, there is a date. I think we had it dated to 100 years ago. And you can see it's messed up in places, so they put it behind glass for us. But it goes beautifully in this room, and it works. Now I'm going to take you to a couple of places upstairs that just bring me joy. One of the other places that I redid when we moved in was this old wardrobe closet at the top of the stairs. I took the doors off and we painted it a bright red, so it becomes a piece all by itself. Welcome to my bedroom. It's one of my very favorite places. Here I have a picture of all 7 of us, including Bob and I, at 18 months. And we get to compare who looked like who at the same age, which is really fun. And then you asked earlier my very favorite piece in the house, and I think it's the painting over my bed. A friend's daughter painted it, and the colors just, I love the colors of them. One of the reasons I love this room, when we moved into this house, actually this room was painted just the way you see it. I took a piece of the old paint and took it to the paint store, and I got it copied. I had never seen it done where the trim was painted and the walls were the neutral white or cream. And I love that look. Particularly, you'll see as we walk into the dressing room, we have a lot of trim. And so it really, I don't know, it just sets it, it's just a different feel. I found this place, actually a friend found it for me, up in Princeton that had all these old fabrics. And so I went up there and bought this fabric for this couch, had it recovered, as well as this chair. So I love work with what you have. I had a very clean palette as a rug in the room, and I used that. In our room, what I love is the light. There's a lot of light. We have windows on almost both sides here, and trees that you're looking out. You can see the barn. So when you're in this room, I almost feel like I'm outside. This is our dressing room, which when I mentioned having the trim, all of this trim work, you can see where, actually, I'll show you where the addition to the house was done, because here's the old stone of the outside of the house. So just a lot of fun little characters things. Now you've seen the house, but I'm going to take you outside where we just hosted my daughter's wedding a few months ago. Come with me. So on our way out of the house is actually where people enter the house usually, and that's our laundry room, which is one of the reasons I needed to make it a little cute and fun. All our children's artwork, as I said, is in the house, but we've just started to put them in the laundry room as well. This is a cow, and since it was a dairy farm, I asked my daughter to do a cow, and it's in progress. It's only half done right now. These are the original cabinets in the home, and we replicated these in the kitchen. When we first moved into this house, several very reputable architects and historians came through the house, and it was so helpful. They walked us through and said, take this, get rid of this, keep this. This is incredibly valuable to the home itself. And one of those things was the cabinets that had been done, which is why we had the Amish go ahead and replicate them. All right, now you get to come to the outside of my house, which I love so much. Right here we have my herb garden, which my husband completely made from scratch for me, said he would never do it again. Each one of these had to be hand done, and the height difference is about an 18-inch difference. So in this is everything I cook with, every herb I cook with, and it's just a fun thing to have right outside of my kitchen. But let's go to the barn. Okay, we are in the barn. This is this is my happy place. And I think it's because we've just created it from the very beginning until now. So I found these huge wheels in Philadelphia at kind of a salvage place. I think they held wire at one point, but they're hollow and they're very light. So I had them wired for lighting. Actually, for my daughter's wedding, we put hops up on top of them, which just added a lot of green, pretty for the wedding itself. I had the Amish make this table. We do all big family meals, entertaining. It seats about 32 just at this table. And so I love to create different tablescapes. Now obviously we're in fall, so it's been fun to bring in all the fall foliage. So over here, we have kept track. My daughter writes different events down. We put these boards up on either side of the door, and she writes different special events that we host. So instead of having a guest book saying different events, my daughter does the board, which leads me to one of my favorite things, which is we didn't want a guest book. So when we originally were building this, we found a log and we got something to burn. And when guests would come, they would burn their names into this, and it became our guest book. So there are names burnt in all down the log. We're in here a lot. We even have a large screen that we do movies in here. This barn was originally 10,000 square feet, and it burned down in the 1950s. So we really wanted to recreate another barn atmosphere for all of the company, and I have a huge family, so that we had a place to really congregate. But we didn't want to take away from the stone ruins, which is a large portion of this. So we built a smaller barn in the same square footprint. So that's what we created, was this. One of my very favorite places in the barn is our bathroom. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but in this bathroom, what we've done is we have taken photos from every family vacation and we put them on the wall. So if you look at, as you're sitting in the bathroom, you get to see everything we've done as a family over the last 20 years. A lot of people ask me if I miss my old life, and that is being a trial lawyer. And there was a time when I really did, that sense of productivity and accomplishment daily. But what I saw in our flipping houses, a creative side came out of me that I didn't even know existed. And I actually began to feel when my oldest daughter went off to college, and I still had 4 at home, but I felt the earth shifting under me again. Like, what am I going to do in my next life? Okay, I've had trial work, then I've had house redo. What's the next thing? And that's when my uncle challenged me to, really ask and pray and ask the Lord to show me what to do next. And that's when the book was born. So it's been, it's completely out of my lane, and it's been a challenge, and yet really fun to see what's next. We took our property and our farm over the course of a year and did our family traditions all throughout the year. our family recipes, gardening and entertaining. And it's called Hungry for Home. And that's what we did. So that has been my love letter to families and to couples and to grandparents. So the stone ruins, that's what these are. All that was left after the fire. And what we did, because you couldn't even see them when we moved here, was we cleared it out, we cleared the inside, and then we began to rebuild. What did we want it to look like? What spaces did we want to have? So we have rose bushes in the corners. We have a sitting area. I built a large torch to have on a fun fall night. We used all the original stone that had fallen from the fire to rebuild this place. So I saw a teepee somewhere, and it was so much fun. So oftentimes we'll put one of our fire pits under the teepee, and it's lit at night, and it just makes another wonderful space for a party. We are, if you drive out of our driveway, you are back in Cityland. So it's crazy. You can turn onto our street and feel like you're kind of secluded. My daughter's actual wedding was in here. All 250 people sat in here, and they got married at the top of that hill right there. Well, we did our at-home wedding family style. So what we did was we got long king's tables, and each table was served platters of meats and farro with wild mushrooms and all sorts of fun local things, and they were served all the way down the table. So that to me represented who we were as a family, and it just kind of changed things up again. So we're gonna go to my very favorite outdoor spot. It was the last thing Bob and I redid when we bought the property, and it was the one thing I wanted done. It's right next to the chicken coop. There was an area that we realized had been part of the original barn, and it must have been where someone lived because there's a stone fireplace. This was filled with trees. We cleaned it out, and I told my husband I wanted an English garden. So here's what we did. There's a place to entertain or to eat as a family on this side, and then on this side to relax by the fire. So this is really, if you were to ask my favorite spot, this is my favorite spot. We have dinners out here from pizza and fire to formal. So over COVID, our chicken coop originally was sliding off the foundation, and while we were gone on vacation one time, a fox got in through the foundation and killed all 25 of our chickens. So during COVID, Bob rebuilt this entire chicken coop. We have 20 chickens, which I love because you get everything from brown eggs to white eggs to blue to green to pink. And it's so much fun. It's one of the things our kids come out and collect every single day. All right, so the property, as you can see down this alley, it extends there. And then on it are the two guest cottages, in which one we rent to a dear friend, and the other my father and sister live in. The final space that I wanted my husband to build for me was a cutting garden. And you might ask, why a cutting garden? You have flowers everywhere. I wanted a place where I was free to go cut everything to put in my house. And this is our cutting garden. So I plant seasonally, so things grow from April until now. And now what's left is the dahlias and the fall foliage. These are edible. They're called nasturtia. So you can put them in salads, you can put them in anything. You know, with an old house, you find hidden secrets. When we were putting in this walkway that led from the house down to the orchard, my husband came upon this slab, which is in the ground, and it says, to raise flowers is a common thing. God alone gives them fragrance. So it's so fun to find, you know, the history in your own house, and it just creates a bigger story. Okay, you're in one of my other very how many favorite areas can a person have? But this one is because it means something. When we first bought the home and we were redoing it and we were painting and, I mean, literally living outside and, you know, we weren't living in the house. My cousin, who was racing across America at the time, who had 6 kids, we were watching his kids. So we had 11 kids, or I think we had all 6 of his kids. But as a thank you, he shipped 8 Honeycrisp apple trees to us, which is where you're standing, is this alley of Honeycrisp trees. And they had the whole family leave a video of, because fruit Bob and I bear as a couple and as a family, that this is what they wanted to give us. So it just, again, it's part of the story. It's part of who we are. We have an open home to people and we love people well. So this represents that. Someone asked me, what do you say to someone who thinks you have the perfect family? And I think First of all, that made me incredibly sad because we're not perfect, but my heart has been to create a safe place to not be perfect in. And for my children to want to come to, or anyone on the street, or neighbors to want to come to my house where they know they're heard, where they celebrate, where life happens. And so I would say that's what home means to me.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hey Homeworthy, Dominique here with Remix Living, and welcome to my Philadelphia apartment. Hello everyone, I'm Dominique Calhoun and we're in my small apartment space in Old City, Philadelphia. So I'm located in a high-rise 2-bedroom apartment, 2-bath. We're in about 1,140 square feet. I'm an interior designer and I've been designing for about 6 years now, and I developed this career path from hobby turned career. I've always had an interest in design. I initially went to college for fashion merchandising, so I've always been a creative, and when I purchased my first home, I had so much fun designing the space, and people took to it and, commended me for doing such an amazing job. So I decided to turn that hobby, designing my own space, into a full-fledged career. Sharing space with a teen is not easy. However, in this age, they are 100% committed to their room. So that's the good thing. For the most part, my daughter is in her room, either doing homework, listening to music. She has a cute little desk space where she's able to do that, as well as her love of makeup. So at this age, she's more so confined to the room. It was very important in my apartment space, because it's a little on the smaller side in our common area, to not only have seating where we're able to watch television, but also a space where we can combine and come together and have dinner. So within the little space, I was able to bring in our seating and our dining experience in one, so that when she comes out of the room, we can actually, have some mom and daughter time. As you enter my apartment space, you first have this foyer, which is a collection of things that I love. A beautiful canvas art piece and a statement wallpaper, which is a wow as soon as you enter the apartment space. I also have a basket here because I don't want people having on their shoes as they, walk through the space. So I think this is functional and goes really well with the design. So I grew up in North Philadelphia. I came from a single parent home. My mom didn't have much when she was raising her 3 girls. However, she always made our space feel comfortable and very much home-like. So it was with that family upbringing and how I was raised, which made me hone in on the true vision of my business. With Remix Living, we believe that everyone can have access to amazing interior design, no matter what the budget looks like. And a lot of that came from my upbringing as a child. Let me take you guys over to my bar area. Creating a vibe in my apartment space, I love to be able to entertain my guests when they come over. So I wanted to create a cute little bar corner that highlights the things I love. Being able to relax, being able to have a cocktail when needed after a long day of work. So we have some really cute bar accessories. We have these really nice decanters with a brass top. We have a full set of that. I love wood tones and I like to pair it in my space when I have the opportunity. So again, brass paired with wood, a nice shaker to mix up our cocktails purchased at Home Goods. We have all of the essentials to make a good cocktail and to entertain our guests. So I would definitely suggest that if you are on a budget and you're looking for really nice things, Home Goods and Amazon, as well as our studio, are definitely stores you can shop to find beautiful items at the lower cost. I know that some people are afraid to shop these stores sometimes because, you want things that stand apart. But when you have a lower price point that you're shopping with, these are great retailers that can provide you with amazing product to elevate your space. Let me walk you guys into my main living space, right? So we're in a small apartment, so we want to be able to maximize the use of the space. So we have the living and dining space kind of combined. It was very important to me that I brung in this space very cozy elements. I love patterns, I love different textures, and I'm not afraid to layer. So we first start off with continuing this beautiful statement wallpaper throughout the apartment space. I wanted to bring in some layers onto the walls. I love brass, as you guys can see. I have it all over my bar area. So I brought in these beautiful brass shelves from CB2, highlighting just some of my family moments on those shelves. In my living room space, I have a beautiful patterned rug with an overlapping hide rug on the floor. And also, it was very important for me in this apartment space to add in some additional artificial light, right? Because I have beautiful windows that bring in a ton of sunlight, but at night, I needed more artificial light. So we decided to add in a beautiful ceiling light. Don't be discouraged that because you're in an apartment space, you can't add in additional lighting. You know, we can't hardwire, but we're able to get a beautiful pendant in the ceiling and just run additional wires and such. A good electrician can achieve the look for you. So my sofa, I wanted a very dark sofa. The sofa is beautiful in design. The channeling along the back of the sofa, again, I love to layer. So the beautiful shag throw paired with textured statement pillows just adds that piece of luxury feel to the apartment space. In front of our sofa, we didn't want to do a big bulky cocktail table because it's, you know, not a huge space. So I did a sleeker cocktail table design and added some statement accessories that I thought were very appealing, eye-catching, and aesthetically pleasing. No, I'm not a chess player, but I thought it was beautiful. So I added in this beautiful chess set paired with a good fashion book, of course a good candle, and some coasters for when we entertain our guests. We didn't really want to take up too much floor space with the cabinet or anything underneath the television. So what I decided to do was pair and style a lot of beautiful accessories that I love underneath my television. So a collection of books that I enjoy. Of course, bringing greenery into a space always makes it feel bright and airy. A picture of my daughter that I enjoy, of course, again paired with some home decor books. A patterned concrete stool to again tie in the pattern appeal that I like to flow through my apartment space. I would say that my personal design aesthetic is an eclectic style mixed with maximalist. I am very much a maximalist. I like to mix patterns. I like to mix prints. I'm not afraid to play with color, and I'm not afraid to combine different elements. So I would very much say I'm a maximalist. I like eclectic pieces, and I like to tie it all in cohesively and have each piece speak to each other. What I love the most about my home are the light hardwood floors, the large windows, which bring in a ton of natural light. I love that essentially, even though it's a small space, me and my daughter have our own kind of corridors in the apartment space. So, you know, when she needs her time to herself, she's able to do so. And when I need my time to myself, I'm able to achieve that as well. And then when we want to come together, we come together in the common area. So even though it's a smaller space, I've been able to maximize the design as well as create functionality for us both. So let's transition to this little dining nook that I've created within our living room space. So nothing too big, you know, very small, just a nice round table paired by two beautifully hourglass chairs, a collection of books again, because we know that I love to have books throughout my apartment to, you know, just add that additional piece of inspiration. tie into the wallpaper continuing through the apartment space. I love textures. So we have these seagrass wall fans on the wall. Again, very affordable item. And then elements to just tie in this whole maximalist look with a lot of layering and a lot of textures. So we have these branches coming out of the vase and more books and greenery that we love in the space. In this dining space, I decided to bring in a faux marble dining table because I love the look of this, but you know, marble can be very expensive. What I decided to, you know, pay more money on for this table to kind of elevate the design was the dining chairs. I decided to purchase these beautiful dining chairs from Nuevo. Yes, they were a little on the pricier side, but I felt like it just elevated the look. Let me take you guys into my bedroom space. Welcome to my bedroom, my favorite space in my apartment. I know in the main area, I went for more of a darker vibe, but in my bedroom, I really wanted to experience a relaxing retreat-like feel. So I went with more of a bohemian vibe to experience cream tones, light textures, very airy things, right? So the first thing that I love in my bedroom is my massive headboard, which takes almost the full scale of the wall, right? Paired with this beautiful abstract wallpaper that is perfect together. In my bedroom space, I decided not to go super bold with the wallpaper and wallpaper all of the walls, but just act with an accent wall behind my bed. I love the way this turned out. One of the challenges with a small apartment space is not having a ton of storage. So what I decided to do was put my collection of hats on the wall and create like an art design with it. Do I wear all of these hats? I absolutely do. They're very consistent in a lot of my wardrobe, but it's also a great way to kind of highlight my style and my space, which I thought was genius. Underneath the hats is my shoe collection as well. Do I have a favorite pair of shoes? I don't have a favorite pair. I love them all the same. It just depends on my mood for the day and how I'm feeling with my outfit look. Another thing that I love in my bedroom space is this beautiful desk. The desk holds a lot of the accessories that I use on a daily. Of course, I wanted to bring in some greenery, and you guys know I love texture from the living room space. So this beautiful vase, and also I love this oversized piece of artwork from a vendor called Uttermost that showcases this bohemian princess vibe that I am trying to achieve in this room. I love patterns and prints. I think you all get the gist of that from filtering through my living room space. So it was very important for me to bring in a print and a vibe in my bedroom, but something a little more subtle and not as loud. So that's where the beautiful, you know, light colored cheetah print chair comes in. Again, I wanted my space to feel very airy, light, flowy. So I wanted to bring in a beautiful linen curtain. Again, very flowy, Amazon find. I think this look just elevates the space. DIY is tricky. I mean, it's definitely a service that is more attainable than having a designer full time, but you have to be willing to do the work. People don't realize how, you know, it can really be tough when you're trying to design a space, ordering all of the materials, putting all the stuff together. So as long as you're willing to commit to the common goal to bring the space together and make it functionable for yourself, I definitely think DIY is affordable and attainable to all. You have to be willing to put in the time. Welcome to my daughter's space. For her room, I let her guide me into the color palette and things that she loved to incorporate into the space. So we decided to do like lighter pink blush tones in the room. Of course, every teenager loves LED lights, so we had to incorporate that in the design. A beautiful, relaxing marble wallpaper mixed into those blush tones. The space is very girly, very fun, and reflects her style and her personality. We brought in this oversized, it looks oversized, right? But it's only a full-size bed. But because we're in an apartment space and don't have a lot of closet space, we had to bring in something that had storage on it. So around the perimeter of the bed, you can lift up these panels and there's storage underneath, which was a must with her room. For her room, I decided to bring in this full-length retro framed mirror with different layers of the pink. The word home means to me a place that you can come in, relax, reset, and just enjoy a vibe. You know, as a full-time entrepreneur, we work so much, and I wanted my home to reflect things that I love, things that I enjoy, and things that I want to experience on a daily. Unfortunately, we don't get to travel too often sometimes when we are all in our business to experience inspirational things. So I wanted to bring that into my home, and that was very important to me. Thank you guys for visiting my home. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Thanks for watching. For more Homeworthy content, be sure to like and subscribe.